Hello everyone, it's MToW saying it again, and I am here to once again expound on my thoughts on wrestling. Um, I felt it necessary to speak on this matter because, to me, it's really indicative of the problems that are plaguing WWE right now, and why I have still personally chosen to maintain my persistent boycotting of WWE Raw and SmackDown and pretty much every one of their basically their headliner shows. I did not see SummerSlam, mostly because I had an extreme disinterest in it. Every time I read reports on it, apparently that last SummerSlam was a real stinker. And, every now and again when it comes to WWE, they have a match card where it's unimpressive at first, and then they happen to, like besides SummerSlam, the pay-per-views before SummerSlam, what you'll mostly hear is that we expected this show to be bad, but it turned out to be sort of good. It was decent. It wasn't a bad show. Basically, they give it a pass because of low expectations and WWE happens to exceed those expectations every now and again. And one of the things that's killing WWE right now, as the primary thing really killing them, it's extremely obvious, and I shouldn't have to say it, and it's very redundant to say at this point because every single person made this observation. The booking is just awful. Like, not even just the booking, because a lot of these matches on paper, if you were to tell me that some of these wrestlers were feuding with each other, on paper, I would agree that, yeah, this might be good for business. This might be good for, momentary boosts like the Wyatt family versus The Undertaker and Kane could make for a decent feud. Maybe a decent blow-off feud could help, promote Wyatt a bit, or the Wyatt family a bit. Paige versus Charlotte. They've proven before that they can work well with each other, well enough at least. The New Day versus the Dudley Boys, I think could have been worked out better. Basically, there's a lot of things that could have been done, and it's really the execution that really ruins it for a lot of people. It's gotten to the point where as far as I'm concerned, I've stopped trusting WWE to make good decisions when it comes to potential talent. Like when Tyler Breeze came up, I was rolling my eyes, and I just immediately. Because Tyler Breeze, as far as I'm concerned, should have had at least one run with the NXT title. He was considered one of the most underrated prospects in that entire company. And he's always been just so close, but always missing the mark whenever it came time to win it. And I think that could have made for a decent feud along the way where he could finally get redemption and actually hold the championship for a while. Some people might probably try to argue that a character like his doesn't really lend itself to a main, a main event position, but I would disagree. I think that there was a lot of potential with him in that regard. But now he's stuck feuding with Dolph Ziggler, and as far as I'm concerned, nowadays feuding with Dolph Ziggler is an immediate kiss of death. I like Dolph as a in-ring competitor, but it's gotten to the point, especially with that whole Rusev-Lana feud, I have grown to hate the air that man breathes. And it's not his fault. The one thing that saddened me about all this company unintentionally conditions fans to dislike and just be annoyed with wrestlers who do well and really deserve a lot of respect. Like Seth Rollins, a lot of people were happy when he got injured because it opened up a lot of opportunities for someone else to step up and hold the championship. But for one thing, I don't celebrate anyone getting injured in the company. That's fucking bullshit. It's disgusting behavior. I don't like Nikki Bella, but when she got injured, I did say to myself at some point, like, well, this might be a decent time to either take time off and reposition ourselves or kind of recalibrate the Divas division while she's gone. But at the same time, I didn't say that, oh fuck, I'm glad that bitch is gone. I didn't say anything like that. But second of all, Seth Rollins is a really great wrestler. He can go in the ring and have a good to great match with literally anyone. the problem comes in the fact that how he was positioned as a champion. He lost match after match, constant interferences when it came to big matches, and it's surprising considering the fact that it's not even that. It's not even the match quality. Like, the one segment that really hit home what they feel about Seth Rollins or the general incompetency of this company is when he confronted Shawn Michaels. And this is how I imagine something like this going in my head. Shawn would be happy to meet Seth. Because he's like, yeah, I keep hearing people saying you're the next me. Like, that's pretty cool. And Seth responds basically by saying, first, like, I am nothing like you. Like, you can't, like, compare to me. And it's disrespectful to me to constantly be compared to you. I'm not the next Shawn Michaels. I'm Seth Rollins, and everyone should be gunning to be the next Seth Rollins. It was something along that chord, but then the Shawn said, basically, Seth, like, yeah, they say I'm as good as you. I'm the next Shawn Michaels. And, like, well, and Shawn basically says something to the fact that, well, you're a geek and no, you're not. He didn't say that exactly, but that's really the vibe I got from that. And that's when it really dawned on me. They don't know how to book a credible heel champion. Especially someone like Seth Rollins. It's baffling. It's and the booking really kind of... I'm sorry, I'm kind of doing multiple things at once. And the booking, like I said, was like constantly losing match after match. Long, boring promos that particularly don't go anywhere. And, you know, it's just not... There's nothing to really look forward to anymore. The things that WWE package that Leslie do, you could make some enjoyment in. You could find some level of intrigue in is when they hype up a Stone Cold podcast, because we might potentially hear something that we didn't plan on, that we didn't plan on like ever airing on, on their shows and whatnot. Excuse me for stuttering so much. I would say, but I would like to cover right now. This is what I intended to cover initially, but you know, as I said before, my mind goes in many different directions at once when I'm speaking. The Charlotte versus Paige feud, which has been one of the most boring, stagnated things I've ever had the displeasure of watching. I wouldn't say it's the worst part of the quote-unquote Divas Revolution, but it's up there. Mostly because Charlotte is boring as shit as the top babyface. I don't think that's a really good position for her to be in. To me, she always shined better as a heel, but that's just me. And I haven't been watching NXT for long, so my brief introduction to her might be just, it might have just been a good first impression. But and Paige, I can't stand Paige. I'm not talking about because Paige is an effective heel by all accounts, but it's the same as Stephanie McMahon, where Paige, like, they're both really good at drawing heat, but the heat they draw from me personally, I never want to see them on television again. I don't care for Paige. I never thought Paige was that great to begin with. I never thought she was that great of a wrestler. Her mic skills are above average, well, I would say. I had to give her credit. I've never been fond of Paige. But I will say that as a heel, she does, like, she has her place as a heel. To me, the main problem is the fact that they keep pitching her back and forth with this Total Divas bullshit. And it is not helping me warm my opinion to her and kind of grow to love to hate her, you know what I mean? And it's not helped by the fact that Charlotte's pretty much a perpetual loser in every single match, like championship match I've seen from her, where she's defending her title. She's on the defensive most of it, and then she hits a sudden attack, a sudden move out of nowhere, and then she puts on the figure 8, and it's just lame as shit. I heard people kept trying to sell to me that the Nikki Bella match she had, where she won the championship, was a lot better than it like a lot of people were expecting, but it was an awful match as far as I was concerned. It was just, here was the story of the match. Nikki Bella kept working over her leg, Charlotte kept forgetting to sell every now and again, and then eventually she hits a spear, figure four, that's it. It was a boring as shit match, and I'm sick and tired of people trying to defend that match, if only because they want to give credit for the heartwarming, I would quote unquote, moment where Charlotte won the match and celebrated with her father, which was, I think, to me, it was undercut by the night prior. But again, let me get back on track and actually talk about what I want to talk about. The moment where WWE's absolute desperation really kicked in was, I think it was last Monday Night Raw or 2 Raws ago, before SummerSlam, one week before SummerSlam. There was a contract signing between Paige and Charlotte. And to be fair, it was at the end of the show, which I have to give them credit because that's actually a really step in the right direction. Because, you know, people were saying that, oh, well, the Bella match and, you know, Stephanie McMahon, that was a contract signing, and I very much vocalized that I disliked that. And still stand by that, if only because it was a feud that was not founded on anything, not really much was at stake for me to get invested in. Like really the whole point was to see either you will potentially see Stephanie McMahon get her ass kicked, which I guess is some incentive as a heel, or to see the Bellas get rehired, and I didn't give a shit. I don't give a shit about the Bellas, so it didn't really mean anything to me. But here, you have 2 women in the company who everyone generally agree is are very talented, good wrestlers, could have a potential really good feud. It's just they've been victims of shitty creative, and you know it was a contract sign that might have led to something interesting. And I think I don't need to beat around the bush anymore because everyone knows about it now. Everyone's been talking about it. Paige made a crack about Charlotte's deceased brother Reid, and you know Charlotte attacked her, and that was the thing. I wasn't offended by that because I didn't know him personally. You know, I don't know the Flair family. I feel bad for Rick because, you know, he wasn't informed of that ahead of time, and it was extremely in poor taste, but let's be fair, WWE, and not even just WWE, wrestling in general has a history of doing shit like that. That doesn't mean, I'm not trying to justify it, but this isn't new. I know certain other people on YouTube are pretty much giving the riot act to Attitude Era fans who found offense to it, and I think they kind of missed the point because... For one thing, I think the Attitude Era, in terms of its raunchy content, is fucking overrated, and it's just, I'm sick of hearing about how people wanted to go back to that. I want wrestling to be good again. That's all the fuck I want. I don't give a shit about the raunchy content. I don't give a shit if they're saying the shit, fuck, or bitch on the air. I just want decent, compelling, and well-written storylines, well thought out, well booked shit. I don't give a fuck about if the Attitude Era ever comes back. But it's not about the raunchiness. It's not about the blatant bluntness of it and absolute lack of necessity. Where a lot of people compare that what Paige did to Eddie's exploitation with Randy Orton's initial comment like, "Oh, Eddie's not in heaven; he's in hell." There was some context leading up to that to some degree, and the Randy's character at that time was consistently trying to push the bar to get people enraged at him. And I'm not saying that it was a good thing. No, I'm not trying to defend it, but I'm trying to give some level of understanding when it comes to people's mindset on that. Like, you can't compare the two because one actually did have some level of reasoning behind it. Like, she brought up Paige brought up Reid, and it's not her. Basically WWE Creative and Vince wanted her to bring up Reid and to mock him so she could get immediate heat because Paige was as dead as a doornail and she had no real heat on her outside because people usually cheer for her. Same thing goes for Charlotte. Like, she had no real draw as a babyface, save for being Ric Flair's daughter. And instead of, like, they try to draw on the real world. It's like the thing they did with Roman Reigns, where trying to bring his kids into it. Like with Bray Wyatt stalking his family. They immediately dropped that. It wasn't to this extent, though, I'll say that. And that actually did have some layer of potential, but I would rather them keep family fucking out of it unless the family themselves are there to consent to it. And it's just, it says something about the company and Vince as a person when Rick goes on record by basically saying he's going to keep his opinion to some degree to himself because he's worried about how it might affect his daughter's career. Basically, because Rick would express disdain towards the company for using his dead son as a means to draw ratings, basically, they would somehow find a way to punish Charlotte for that, and that's bullshit. But my annoyance towards it comes from the fact that they are so desperate, and they are so utterly inept of creativity. This is their way of trying to draw you into the drama of the match. This is their way of trying to get you to care about Charlotte. To remind her, yeah, her brother died. Do you feel sorry now? What a bitch Paige is. But the thing is, we know that it doesn't come out of Paige's mouth. We know it didn't come out of Paige's mouth. And I don't really care for Paige's attitude at times. I'm talking about her, on social media and whatnot. And on Tough Enough, she was fucking insufferable as far as I was concerned. But I don't think she's not the type of person who would say something like that. She has boundaries. She's a family girl herself. She cares deeply about family. Like that's one of the reasons why she was in America is because she's living out her brother's dream, if I remember correctly. So her and Charlotte in that regard, in fact, if anything, the storyline, if we're going to bring up Reid, they could bring up there's a lot to compare and contrast in that regard to Charlotte and Paige. You could also bring up the fact that in spite of that one thing we have in common, basically Charlotte, you had everything handed to you on a silver platter. I had to work everything. My family don't have a legacy like yours is, even though we're just as good, if not better. Like, that could have been made for some really great drama. Instead, it's just some playground taunts, absolute bullshit, and weak, quote-unquote, pipe bomb promos. And it's shit like this that makes me absolutely detest shit like all these... just WWE in general, really. The only thing that's been somewhat solid as of late is NXT. And that's not a good thing. And I love NXT, I really do. And I think that a lot of the talent there really make a name for themselves there, are really impressed. But the problem comes to the fact that it's a developmental roster above everything. It shouldn't be the case when people are cheering harder for wrestlers who are supposed to be seen as inferior in that position. They're supposed to be seen as rookies and trainees who are working their way up to be one day grab brass spring that Vince McMahon touts so highly, and it's not the case anymore. That whole thing with Reid and the whole reaction to it, and the fact that they never mentioned it again, and which is the only real thing that you can do after that, because it's like when CM Punk was feuding with The Undertaker for that match at WrestleMania. To me personally, I was drawn on the appeal of the match itself on paper alone. That was my draw. That's what wanted me in there. But they decided to take it up another notch, and they pretended like, oh, CM Punk took Paul Bearer's urn, he was playing around with it like a jackass, and then he beat up Undertaker and dumped the ashes on him, and it's like, that was an instant turnoff for me. I didn't see that particular match because that's what made me lose interest. Because that's just immediately trying to draw sympathy with Undertaker and heat on Punk, but it's the worst kind. And if I remember correctly, I don't think Paul Bearer's son was particularly fond of that angle either. I think he got the go. From what I understand, I think he gave them the go-ahead, but I don't think he knew what they were intended to do. And those weren't real ashes, or they obviously weren't. And people got kind of butthurt about that. But still, it's I'm tired of this shock drop, knee jerk reaction type of booking where they're trying to really. It's like the jump scares of booking, basically. They're one step away from having having a wrestler come out and just shout the N word at someone in the promo, just to rile up the arena and whatnot. Because if they're gonna keep booking like this, if they're gonna keep trying to get those small moments, it's Russo-esque booking, and which is one of the reasons why if Russo, like everyone says, because Russo wanted to contact the WWE because he wanted to see if he can help them because they're at an all-time low, and I was one of the few people who, instead of saying why not give him a shot, it can't get any worse, I said fuck no. And it's not necessarily because of I have a bias towards Vince Russo. It's also because of the fact that their booking is also already on that Russo-esque level where the thing about Russo is that he likes moments. He doesn't care about good wrestling. He cares about big moments that shock and surprise and really make the crowd get on their feet. He loves to hear the pop. And WWE right now is kind of operating on that same principle where they're always looking for small moments to get drawn crowds momentarily before they lose interest again. That's not the way to go. You have to think long term. You have to have a plan. You have to have a few picked out. You have to make compelling content. Before they said, Vince went on the record saying something like their show is some kind of they don't consider themselves wrestling. They consider themselves kind of like a serialized drama. We've seen before with Lucha Underground that serialized drama can be compelling and interesting and have its own unique spin to it. But if we're going based on that, if we're saying that WWE as a show can be held to the same account as Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead, and shows like that, it is the worst television show. Not just in general, it's one of the worst television shows in history right now. Because there's booking inconsistencies, there's shit changing left and right, there's flat characters, flat storylines. Any potential characters that wrestlers that we're starting to like, are usually given the shaft later on. And it's hard to get invested in anything, and the championships don't feel like they matter anymore. Then they killed the King of the Ring. Because, like, the King of the Ring should have been things like the King of the Ring and championship reigns and stuff like that need to really matter. And they need to matter because there needs to be something immediate to fight for. You had, at some point in WCW, Vince Russo made the also wise decision to vacate all the belts. And that essentially meant that wrestlers were fighting for no particular reason. What was there to fight for if they had nothing to strive for? Same thing goes here. And they are fighting for championships and whatnot, but you have to really... it's not even a matter of speaking up the belt. It's a matter of they have to fight, they have to use... Like, we need to see that they're willing to shed blood, sweat, and tears to defend this belt and really defend what it means. And they have to come out with their heads held high and proudly as they tote that belt. And they need to win consistently, because the whole point of holding the belt, when you win something like the World Heavyweight Championship, that is basically an immediate, that's an immediate sign that to everyone looking at you, yes, I am the best. I'm holding this because this shows that I am the best wrestler in this company, bar none. And if you want to be considered the best, you have to beat me. Well, it's kind of the other way around. A wrestler I am the best, and I hold this because I am the best. Holding this doesn't make me the best, but if you beat me, you deserve this because you beat the best. That means you are the best. You got to, what Rick said, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And right now, with Kevin Owens is holding the United States, the Intercontinental Championship. I don't feel like he's doing much with it, and he doesn't really have anyone to feud with. He's a great heel. We all know he's a great heel. We all know he's a great heel from his Ring of Honor days and before even that. But it makes no difference because in the end, it sucks ass. Because it sucks ass because he has no one really credible to feud with besides the Ryborg. And Ryback is really hard to get into. In fact, I would dare say Ryback made for a more entertaining champion, Intercontinental Champion, because at the very least he was fairly consistent. He came out, he won his matches, and he left. And he every now and again would interact with the crowd, which makes for a decent champion. I'm not saying the matches were that good, but at least he was consistent in that he won. And Alberto Del Rio came back to a huge pop. No one cares not much anymore, because really he hasn't been doing much. He's been botching matches left and right. Not necessarily, necessarily all his fault, but the John Cena Open challenges were a highlight of Raw. And the problem with Del Rio now is that you gave this guy a championship, so he should compete semi-regularly. But he has such a hot, lucrative contract that you should use him sparingly to some degree. It's like the Brock Lesnar. You don't have Brock Lesnar coming out and imagine if Brock Lesnar came every single week and wrestled every single match, and the novelty eventually wears off. Del Rio should be put in a similar, not as much, but a similar position. The fact that they spent $1.2 million on this contract, they don't seem to be acting like it, because they're booking him against people like fucking R-Truth. Ugh. Well, I got that out of my system. Feel free to share your thoughts on this. This was initially supposed to be just a rant towards the booking of the whole Reid situation more than anything. But, I tend to spiral off into different topics because a lot of this has been bouncing around in my head for a long time now, like a few months now. And this is my chance to really let it out and vent and really say what I think. So I apologize in advance if you're not immediately getting what you initially came here for. But regardless, tell me what you think about this. Do you think the Reid thing was not necessarily in bad taste, but do you think it was necessary? What do you think of WWE's booking? Do you think that they have the potential to improve? How would you handle things if you were running the company or part of the creative? And let me know in the comments. If you like this video, be sure to like it. If you didn't like it, dislike it. I can't tell you what to do. And if you are indifferent, then I suppose don't like it all or dislike. I don't know. This has been Star signing out. Y'all have a nice day, and peace be with you and whatnot. And happy holidays. And I'm going to make a video about this later on, but I would like to say happy birthday to MD Phantasm of Blue Majora.